Hi everyone, Sophie here, and welcome to another episode of Unspoken, the weight of words left behind. Today's episode, The Things I Never Said, well, honestly, it hits close to home. We're tackling those heavy, awkward moments when words get stuck somewhere between brain and mouth, like, you know you want to say them, but something sort of freezes. I think we've all got at least one thing we wish we'd said out loud, or let's be real, probably a whole backlog. I've been reading through some of your confessions. Thank you for being so brave and sending them in. There were stories about not telling someone you loved them, staying quiet during heated family dinners, and hanging on to apologies you never gave. It's wild how similar the feelings are, no matter the situation, right? Psychologists talk a lot about how silence isn't just a void. It's active. It weighs you down. Sometimes not speaking is louder than actually saying the thing. There's this tension, this regret that keeps popping up for so many people I've interviewed. One expert described it kind of like a song on repeat. Your mind just keeps looping over what you didn't say when you could have, or maybe should have. And oh, do I know that song. I'll share a bit of my own. I remember not that long ago sitting at this massive family Christmas dinner, classic British mayhem, and a disagreement broke out. One of those silly arguments that aren't really about the thing you're arguing about, if that makes sense. I sat there, completely silent, even though I desperately wanted to say, I don't know, something honest about what was really bothering me. But I just didn't. I felt this pit in my stomach, and honestly, it took ages to shake off. I kept thinking, if I just said how I felt, maybe the whole thing would have gone differently. So yeah, it's not always easy, but carrying those unsaid words, it sticks with you, doesn't it? Moving on a bit, I want to talk about what comes after, the letting go part. For some people, it takes years to process those moments when something important stayed unspoken. I came across a story, a proper tearjerker, about someone who wrote a letter to their father decades after he passed, finally letting out all those tangled feelings they never got to share. The most unexpected bit? They found closure not by sending the letter, obviously they couldn't, but by getting the words out, finally, in their own way. And that's something a lot of therapists and even famous authors go on about. Write it out. Journaling or writing letters, even if you never send them, can help untangle what you've kept bottled up. I know, it sounds a bit like what teachers used to assign when you were in trouble. Write about your feelings. But honestly, it works. I've lost count of the number of times I've written letters I never intended anyone to read, just to get my own head on straight. One guest I spoke with recently, she'd held on to this massive secret for ages, too scared to say it out loud. Eventually, she wrote it down, read it to herself in the mirror, and just let it go. She said it felt like finally exhaling after holding her breath for years. I really related to that. For me, creative writing has always been that secret, safe space. Like, I can put the unspeakable stuff down on paper, play with it, shape it, and somehow make it less scary. Sometimes even just scribbling something and then ripping up the page is enough. Everyone's different, but I reckon most of us need some way to let those words out, even if it's only to ourselves. And then there's those moments you just can't stop replaying, when actually saying the thing might have totally changed the outcome. Like, think about apologies that never happened, confessions of love kept buried, or missed chances to say thank you or I'm sorry. I've heard so many stories where people say, if only I'd spoken up, maybe things would be different. Of course, there's this whole other layer. Sometimes there are big, looming, cultural or societal reasons that make certain things just unspeakable, really. We've all seen the headlines lately, how people feel pressure to stay quiet, to toe the line, to not rock the boat. Sometimes it feels like some topics are just off limits. And it's not just in the news, it's in the research too. Like, people genuinely fear backlash or being misunderstood, or even just seeming vulnerable. It's complicated. And honestly, I might be missing half of why we clam up. Sometimes it's just easier to keep the peace, but at what cost? It's a bit of a paradox, isn't it? I run these creative writing workshops, and every single time someone writes something they've never said out loud before. It's honestly my favorite bit, seeing that moment when the weight starts to lift, just a little, for them but also for everyone listening. It's like a ripple effect. One person voices what they've kept inside, and it gives everyone else permission to do the same. Even if it's just for a few minutes, it's magic. So, wherever you are, if you're holding on to things you've never said, trust me, you're not alone. Maybe start with a page or a note on your phone, just for you. All right, that's all for today's episode. More stories, more messiness, and hopefully a bit more healing next time. Thanks for listening.